Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second day of the International Symposium on Cultural Diplomacy, National Security, and Global Risks. It's an honor for me to have the chance to introduce you today to Johns Hopkins University. Ambassador Shimoni will be joining us shortly, and he's actually kindly agreed to serve as our host both today and tomorrow. I think we had a chance to meet Ambassador Shimoni, most of us, yesterday. What I didn't mention yesterday is that Ambassador Shimoni is actually a member of the advisory board of the ICD, and has been quite active in the recent years. I would suggest we begin the conference now. As you saw, we have a special opportunity to get to know two of our participants in the morning, who will each be presenting briefly the key points from their participant papers. And then at 9:30, we have the first opening keynote address with Lieutenant General Clarence McKnight. So I very much look forward, in particular, to these two participant papers. As you know, part of our methodology at the ICD is really to create a discourse. So it's not just the speakers speaking to the participants, quote unquote, but also the other way around. So we're beginning today as well as tomorrow with actually participant papers as the first thing. So the first paper that we have today is actually from Samson E. Liolio, who is currently a master's student of Peace and Conflict Studies at the European Peace University in Austria. And the paper he's going to be briefly presenting this morning is Rethinking the State Apparatus of Counterinsurgency, Its Rise to Classical Terrorism, a case study of Boko Haram in Nigeria. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a very, very warm welcome for Mr. Samson E. Liolio. Thank you.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I want to say a big thank you to the organizers of this symposium for giving me this opportunity to make a presentation. I must confess that I'm intellectually terrified going through the list of participants. And for me, it's a great honor. I just hope at the end of the day, I'm able to pass a positive message. I'm going to be speaking on the topic, Rethinking the State Apparatus of Counterinsurgency, Its Rise to Classical Terrorism, a case study of Boko Haram in Nigeria. Basically, of major importance is to look at the military and political forces at play between the Nigerian state and Boko Haram. And in this order, questions, of course, like, are there more Boko Haram activities in Nigeria after the crackdown on the group? I mean, what's the situation before and after the crackdown on the group by the Nigerian government? It is no doubt that Nigeria, the most populous African country, and perhaps the most oil-rich African country, has been faced with recent issues of terrorism. And of course, the major group responsible is Boko Haram. And the situation in Nigeria is such that most citizens are much more conversant with the name Boko Haram than they are with the name of the Nigerian president. And also, I mean, pastors now preach in churches under tight security. Perhaps just a few statistics in Nigeria. I mean, it's of importance. Nigeria, of course, is the most oil-rich region in Africa. And in terms of population, we are approaching about 160 million, which means Nigeria shared 2.29% of the total world population, which means statistically, 1 in every 44 persons of the world is in Nigeria, which means an insecurity in Nigeria is, it's a problem of insecurity in Nigeria is a threat to to peace anywhere. Having said that, I think there are two major terms that I would like to define, at least for the purpose of this paper, and the first will be terrorism. One thing is certain, it's always very difficult to define the word terrorism, owing to the fact that it's not really an academic term. It is rather a political term. And this allows for different interpretations depending on the purpose of the interpreter and on the political demand of the movement. And also, it is no doubt that the term became much more popular after September 11. However, common definitions of terrorism refer to those violent acts which are intended to create fear, are perpetrated for religious, political, ideological, and deliberately target or disregard the safety for non-combatants. I would also like to just consider the criteria for terrorism given by the GTD, that's the Global Terrorism Database, and they gave 3 criteria. Basically, the first one being that the act must be aimed at attaining political, economic, religious, or social goal. There must be evidence of intention to coerce, intimidate, or convey some message to a larger audience than the immediate victim. And the very last one, of course, is the fact that the action must be outside the context of international law. Then, of course, counterinsurgency, when we talk about counterinsurgency, a simple definition for this purpose of, for the purpose of this paper would be, I mean, just to borrow the Oxford Dictionary, it involves actions taken by recognized government of a nation to contain or quell an insurgency taken up against it. Having said that, it's now important to look at what is Boko Haram? Who are they? Now, better known as Boko Haram, Boko Haram actually is a Salafist jihadist terrorist organization based in northeast of Nigeria, in the predominantly Kanuri areas. Loosely translated to mean Boko Haram, I mean Western civilization or Western education is forbidden, or that it is a sin. Now, considering the modus operandi of Boko Haram in the past few years, it is no doubt that the group has no clear structure of or evident chain of command. However, I have tried to coin out some structure just to have a concise view of what Boko Haram is. Now, in terms of the origin, Boko Haram is believed to have been founded by self-proclaimed Nigerian spiritual leader named Mohammed Yusuf in the city of, in the city of Maiduguri in 2002. And of course, the aim was to establish Sharia law in Borno State. Now, having said that, it is also important to state that the group includes members who are from neighboring Chad and Niger. And these people only speak, of course, Arabic. And in terms of their ideology, of course, like I said, they are very much in contradistinction to Western education. Then I would also like to consider in terms of symbols, nothing has been known, at least at the time of writing this paper, there is no specific symbol to say this is a symbol of, when you say it, you say, okay, this is Boko Haram. And in terms of the group type, of course, it's an extremist group. And the area of operation, like I said, northern Nigeria. And in terms of their targets and opponents, the group has primarily targeted the Nigerian police, at least in its formative stage, and it has shown no compulsion, killing traditional leaders who they consider informants. Its blocked has triumphantly praised attacks on Nigerians who visited drinking bars, clubs, and public places. And more recently, Boko Haram has channeled its attack to churches. Now, in terms of group affiliation or training, it is believed, I mean, there are lots of confirmation that connects Boko Haram with the Al-Qaeda faction of the Maghreb. Then also, it has also been established that Boko Haram also have some connection with Al-Shabaab, the Somalian Al-Shabaab. In terms of finance, it is believed that the group is financed by some northern governors, as well as Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab. And in terms of tactics and strategy, in order to reach an internet-savvy audience, Boko Haram operates a blog at yusufislamicbrothers.blogspot.com, and with this, they were able to extol their virtues of jihad. They also have an email with which they communicate to intending members, and the email is nigjihad@yahoo.com. And a March 15, 2012 BBC article stated that Boko Haram's main tactics is a drive-by assassination using motorbike. At least within the formative stage, the situation was very much like this. They just drive back and eat their target, and it was more of a dastardly act. Now, having said that, I'll just quickly rush into Boko Haram before and after the crackdown. Now, before the crackdown, the group conducted its operation more or less peacefully during the first 7 years of its existence. In April, for instance, 2007, 10 policemen were killed. And in November 2008, the group leader Yusuf was arrested. He was, however, released much later. And on July 26, 2009, I mean, this was the time where the violence that I would consider something that altered the change in the operation of Boko Haram. This was the time where it actually occurred. Now, in July, there was a sectarian violence, and in this violence, over 700 Boko Haram members were killed. Now, I tried to include the video link in my paper. Surprisingly, I'm not really assuring you, if you click on it, I think it's been removed. I mean, I saw it as at the time I took it where some people were being killed, and it wasn't really a good scene. However, there's still there are two links. The other one is one by Al Jazeera, and I think you can still find something very meaningful. Now, consequent upon that, in August, the group retaliated somewhat via a publication saying, consequent upon the killing of their leader, they were going to make the Nigerian state ungovernable. And in the later part of 2009, nothing was heard of the group. However, there are indications that this was a time where the group had to go back to the drawing board and perhaps try to map out new strategy to terrorize the Nigerian state. And there are indications that the group sent over 5 persons to Algeria to learn how to make explosive. Now, not to bore you with too much of the stories, Boko Haram, after the killing of Yusuf, basically the first attack was on January 2010. They launched their first attack. That was the post-killing of the leader. And on September 7, 2010, they tried to free about 721 inmates from the Baoshi prison. And the attack so far kept on. I mean, from my own mini research, I can account for over 60 major attacks so far by Boko Haram. Even when I was writing this paper, yeah, I'm just going to try and, yes, because time is not in our favor, I'm just going to try and conclude. The account of Boko Haram activities before and after the government crackdown is instrumental in looking at the effect of counterinsurgency as a mechanism to avert terrorism or insurgency. Obviously, the Nigerian state actually failed. Now, before the crackdown, Boko Haram's capability were limited to a drive-by shooting and improvised explosive. Now, after the crackdown, the group started targeting churches, police, news outfits, and are now chiefly into suicide bombing. I mean, this is something that was very, very, I mean, Nigerian likes life. We like life so much that people will not go into suicide bombing. But as it is now, people are now chiefly, especially Boko Haram groups. Just a minute. Finally, because time is not in our favor, I'm just going to conclude. Finally, it is no doubt, I think this point must be made, that terrorism only became a term in the international scene after the US declared war on terror. And right now, it has spread to so many countries. For me, I don't think counterinsurgency is a good way of dealing with issues of insurgency. It has its effect, of course, which we are now seeing in several other countries. The effect might not be the major country, the first country with which it was targeted in. But right now, we've seen issues of terrorism spreading across, the Middle East, even in Africa, Al-Shabaab and the likes, and they have links with these people. And finally, I believe that humans are originally compassionate, and no one is born a terrorist. It is not natural that people get involved in suicide attacks. Oftentimes, the people who do are the bunch of frustrated, unemployed youths. It can therefore be argued that what we now brand as terrorism has its root in the socio-political as well as economic atmospheres of nation. In this order, I think all levels of, governments at all levels should adhere strictly to true democracy, and importantly, coin out mechanisms to engage the youth in reasonable employment. When unemployment rate is tactically reduced and people are fairly engaged, the tendency for getting into acts of terrorism would be minimal. And of course, to achieving this, we need to properly invest in education. Thank you.